foreign students have filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration. Now, this comes amid the government's immigration crackdown. The students who are studying at the Michigan public universities took their legal route after their immigration status was allegedly terminated unlawfully. The US government, meanwhile, has said last month that it was only acting against people who are counter to the national interest, such as students with criminal records and others who participated in protests against Israel. However, many students have said that they haven't committed any deplorable offences. My colleague Vishal Vivek joins us live for more on this. Vishal, what's the latest you're picking up? And also, will this case or can this case rather act as a watershed moment for hundreds and thousands of more international students in the US currently?
Well, Arjun, each and every day new cases like these are emerging. This is the latest in a flashpoint that has started ever since Trump walked into the White House for the second time. And he promised an immigration crackdown, and he seems to be carrying that out quite often. And these students, they have reacted to that and they have filed a lawsuit, a big lawsuit. And these are 4 students belonging to India, Nepal and China. And they have said in the lawsuit that they have no criminal record whatsoever. All they have are few parking tickets or speeding tickets. So that cannot be a ground for them to be deported, as the emails have suggested that they could be deported. And these emails themselves have not really originated from the Department of Homeland Security. These emails have been passed to them through the organizations where they have been studying. So why the DHS has not contacted them directly, that is also one interesting angle. And also the fact that these students have been there for a while now. The the Indian student there, he's been studying there for about 4 years now, and he lived there for a total of about 15 years. So why such an action has been taken against him and why there is a risk of deportation, that needs to be answered by the authorities. So far the authorities, as you mentioned, have been telling that they are cracking down against people who participated in a lot of these protests against Israel and also have some criminal records. But these students who have filed the lawsuit do not fall under that category. So that raises a lot of questions on the methods used by the DHS and the US administration. So these questions will have to be answered, and also the fact that many students are in a state of shock as to these emails have been landing on their email addresses at a random rate, and they don't know really what is happening.
That's absolutely right. A lot of questions, in fact, need to be answered, and more so by the Department of Homeland Security. Thank you so much for getting us the latest there, Vishal. Moving on, but staying with the US, after freezing critical funding for Harvard University, the Trump administration has now warned that America's wealthiest education institution may lose its power to enroll foreign students. Now this, if it does not bow down and accept the Trump administration's demand to curb the so-called anti-Semitism on campus. The Trump administration has further reportedly also formally approached the Internal Revenue Service, or the IRS, asking it to revoke the tax-exempt status of the Ivy League college, citing its alleged failure, that's right, citing its alleged failure to address the issue of hostility against Jewish people on the campus or anti-Semitism. Meanwhile, recently US President Donald Trump has also aggressively targeted prestigious universities that were the center of bitter protests, as you all have seen, sparked by Israel's war against militant group Hamas in Gaza, stripping their federal funds and directing immigration officials to in fact deport foreign student demonstrators, including those also who hold valid green cards. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Steve Witkoff, President Donald Trump's special envoy to West Asia, will hold talks with European allies in Paris today on U.S. efforts to negotiate a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. The U.S. State Department has said that Rubio and Witkoff would be in the French capital Thursday for these meetings. The officials will have talks with European counterparts to advance President Trump's goal to end the Russia-Ukraine war and stop the bloodshed. Now, Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce said this in a statement Wednesday. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni on Thursday will become the first European leader to meet US President Donald Trump since the White House imposed sweeping tariffs, reciprocal tariffs on virtually all of its trading partners. Over in Asia, Chinese President Xi Jinping arrived in Cambodia on Thursday for a two-day state visit that also serves as an opportunity to further strengthen already robust relations. Now, the visit, Xi's first since 2016, will conclude a three-nation Southeast Asian tour that included stops in Vietnam as well as Malaysia. Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet recently described Beijing as an important and indispensable friend of Cambodia that has in fact helped support the country's economic and social development as well. On the ground, she was greeted at the airport in Cambodia's capital Phnom Penh by King Norodom Sihamoni. On the other hand, China has said that US tariff hikes no longer make economic sense. The World Trade Organization sharply cut its forecast for global merchandise trade from solid growth to a decline, in fact, on Wednesday, underlining further US tariffs and spillover effects could lead to the heaviest slump since the height of the COVID pandemic. Not only this, the WTO said it expected trade in goods to fall by 0.2% this year, down from its expectation in October of 3% expansion. It said its new estimate was based on measures in place at the start of this week. Listen in to the Federal Reserve Chair's remarks. Meanwhile, moving on, US stocks fell sharply on Wednesday, hit by a double blow from Nvidia's China-related warning and the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's caution over the economic impact of these tariffs. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell warned that President Donald Trump's tariffs are unprecedented in modern history, with effects that, quote-unquote, remain highly volatile.
The level of tariff increases announced so far is significantly larger than anticipated, and the same is likely to be true of the economic effects, which will include higher inflation and slower growth. Both survey and market-based measures of near-term inflation expectations have moved up significantly, with survey participants pointing to tariffs. Survey measures of longer-term inflation expectations, for the most part, appear to remain well anchored as well.
US President Donald Trump recently expressed optimism about the potential for tariffs to generate substantial revenue, possibly even replacing income tax. Yes, that's correct. In a conversation with Fox, Trump in fact highlighted the significant financial gains from tariffs, drawing parallels with the late 19th century when the US imposed tariffs and amassed considerable funds. There's a chance that the money is so great that it could replace income tax, Trump stated, referencing the period between 1870 and 1913 when tariffs were the primary source of revenue for Washington. Now, during this era, the US experienced unprecedented wealth, with Trump noting, and that's when our nation was relatively the richest. We were the richest. However, Trump also acknowledged that any changes to the income tax would require congressional approval, as the legislative body oversees all tax policy. And the American dream seems to be fading for Indian nationals as heightened H-1B visa rules, a 38% drop in student visa issuances, and of course 20 to 30-year green card delays have shattered hopes. Now, with AI screenings, consular delays, and shrinking job prospects, Indian students and even professionals are turning to Canada and Germany, leaving US universities and even tech hubs like the Silicon Valley, reeling from a loss of talent and also billions and billions more in revenue. Is the great American dream over? My colleague Vishnu Shom gets you the special report.
There are stricter F1 visa rules for students, with a 38% drop in issuance in 2024, which discourages Indian students from applying to US universities because of approval uncertainties. There are stricter H-1B policies, including higher fees and a 38.6% drop in the 2025 lottery registrations, making it tougher for Indian nationals to secure visas. What do you mean by lottery, you may ask? Well, because India has gone above its country quota, there are a large number of nationals who, for a limited number of births, get through a lottery system, which is unfair at one level, but that's the way it is. It's all tougher for Indian nationals to secure visas, reducing their chances and deterring US study and work plans. There are waits for green cards as well, sometimes decades. That makes the US education system less appealing. It pushes Indian students who want to go to America, get an education, get a job, and then ultimately move to an H-1B if they are sponsored by a company, and ultimately a green card. But if that entire process is difficult, it progressively pushes Indian nationals to go to countries like Germany and Australia. A few years ago, we would have said Canada, but that appears to be changing as well. Visa revocations for minor infractions affect over 300 Indian students. They create fear, leading some to defer or cancel US university applications. There are new AI social media checks, unfairly cancel visas for Indian nationals. Many say that it's unfair, and that creates a fear and uncertainty. There's also a reduced optional practical training or OPT opportunity, which lowers postgraduate job prospects and causes a 28% drop in US-bound Indian admissions. There's a high US tuition cost combined with visa and green card uncertainties, which make alternative destinations like Australia perhaps more attractive for Indian students.
US Vice President J.D. Vance will pay an official visit to India from the 21st to the 24th of April. He'll be accompanied by Second Lady Usha Vance, their children, and senior members of the Trump 2.0 administration. Now, this will be Vance's first visit to India. He will meet PM Modi on the 21st of April. The Vice President and his delegation will have other engagements in Delhi as well, and are also, in fact, scheduled to visit Jaipur and Agra. My colleague Mohammad Ghazali gets you the latest on this.
President J.D. Vance and his wife Usha Vance, the Second Lady of the United States, are expected to visit India next week. The press release came from the White House that how this visit is expected, as J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, will first visit Italy and then India. The dates are from April 18th to April 24th. And in the first leg of this visit, J.D. Vance will be visiting Italy and will meet the Italian Prime Minister there. When it comes to India, he's expected to meet Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Modi is also slated to move to visit Saudi Arabia on April 22nd. So it is being sort of arranged that before departing for Saudi Arabia, the Prime Minister will meet Vice President J.D. Vance, who will be here with his wife and Second Lady Usha Vance. Usha Vance's parents are of Indian origin. So this trip is largely professional as well as personal, both for the Vice President of the United States. Now, when it comes to topics and the discussions which he will be having with the Prime Minister, it is expected that talks will revolve around the bilateral trade agreement, which is still in the progress between India and US. And also, this visit comes at a time when President Trump has put a 19-day pause on the reciprocal tariffs. So, bilateral trade agreement, reciprocal tariffs are going to be the key issues which will come up for discussion when J.D. Vance meets Prime Minister Modi next week.
Canada's PM and Liberal leader Mark Carney and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre had their first direct public exchange on the election campaign, debating who would best represent the country as Prime Minister amid historic trade tensions with the US and also strong concern over the rising cost of living. Now, public opinion polls show an increasingly polarized political landscape in which a two-party race has emerged between the Liberals and the Conservatives, leaving Jagmeet Singh's NDP and Bloc Québécois trading their typical levels of support and at risk, in fact, of losing a significant number of seats in the next parliament. The country has approved a landmark global pandemic treaty after 3 years of talks and without the US participation. Despite the growing sense of urgency over how to respond to pandemics 5 years after the COVID-19 outbreak killed millions and devastated the global economy, nations stumbled over negotiations about technology sharing. During COVID, rich nations were in fact accused of hoarding vaccines and tests to the detriment of poorer ones. Now, experts said that while the treaty wasn't perfect, it was still a definitive moment in the history of global health. However, all's not good because concerns still remain over America's decision to impose tariffs on pharmaceuticals and even reduce global health funding. The UK's highest court on Wednesday ruled that transgender women cannot be legally defined as women, in a case that could have widespread ramifications for equality protections. All UK organisations will now have legal backing to restrict single-sex areas like bathrooms and changing rooms. A trans woman and former UK judge warned the ruling could be, in fact, a kicking-off point for more overt restrictions on trans rights, while a columnist for the Conservative Spectator hailed the decision as a victory for women. Now, this judgment was the culmination of a contentious culture war debate, in fact, that has divided the UK as well as the US, where President Donald Trump has signed, in fact, a slate of executive orders targeting trans people. The US has issued new trade sanctions targeting Chinese importers of Iranian oil. Meanwhile, Iran is dangerously close to developing an atomic weapon. Now, the International Atomic Energy Agency, or the IAEA, has warned of this barely hours before the UN watchdog's chief was expected to leave for Tehran. A blackout hit nearly all of Puerto Rico on Wednesday as the US territory prepared to celebrate the Holy Week, and hotels were almost at capacity. More than 1 million customers were in the dark and out of a total 1.4 million clients, according to Luma Energy, which oversees, in fact, the transmission and distribution of power in the American territory. It was not immediately clear what caused the shutdown, the latest in a string of major blackouts on the islands in recent years. Meanwhile, Governor Jennifer Gonzalez, who was traveling, said officials were working diligently to address the outage. By late Wednesday afternoon, some 5,000 to 7,000 clients had their power restored, although that number is expected to still fluctuate. The fire destroyed over 50 houses in a camp of displaced people in Sudan's western region of Darfur, an aid group said on Thursday. Now, footage on your screens that was captured by the General Coordination for Displaced Persons and Refugees in Darfur showed the fire that happened Tuesday in the Mukchar camp. There was no report of casualties, and it wasn't clear what caused the fire that worsened, in fact, the living situation of the displaced people. For perspective, more than 300 civilians were killed in just 2 days of intense fighting in Sudan's conflict-racked region, the UN Humanitarian Agency reported Monday this week. Now, this as the African country's brutal civil war nears the 2-year mark. Meanwhile, Russia has announced that its forces had gained control of a settlement in eastern Ukraine, while Ukraine reported pushing back multiple Russian attacks as well. The Russian Defense Ministry said in a daily briefing that its forces had in fact taken control of the settlement of Kalinovo in the Donetsk region. Russian forces also carried out strikes on Ukrainian military airfield and assembly site of unmanned surface boats, ammunition production facility, and also a repair plant of armored vehicles, said the Russian Foreign Ministry. It's time for a quick break. See you on the other side.
I like making sure I've got all the right tools for the job. And now that I'm 50, that means looking after the life I've built, protecting my lot if anything happened to me. That's why I decided to learn more about over 50s life insurance from Cover Today. They're the only over 50s life insurer with no waiting period, unlike other insurers who could make you wait up to 2 years for full cover. With Cover Today, you're fully covered from day one. And you're covered for the whole of your life. Plus, unlike other things in life, the price never goes up. Learning more couldn't be simpler. Go online or talk to their friendly UK team in just one phone call.
Cover Today are the only over 50s life insurer with no waiting period and no annoying trips to the doctors either. Plus, you get your choice of a £125 gift card.
Cover Today has given me genuine peace of mind. And now that's done, I can get on with something much more interesting.
To find out more about Cover Today, call our friendly UK team on 0808 143 4733 or visit covertoday.co.uk.
You could save money on your energy, broadband and mobile bills and feel more protected when you switch to a better deal. Switch and save now at uswitch.com.
My car's just broken down. I'm going to need to borrow my dad's.
Send cover for an hour. How are we going to get all this in?
Auntie Rachel's car?
Send cover for a week.
For temporary car insurance fast, you could get a quote in under 2 minutes.
Go on, get
temporary cover at tempcover.com.
No child should suffer the torture of trachoma, but so many are in pain right now. Nananga's lashes have turned inwards. They rip and tear away at his eyes. Pomelo's sight could be gone forever. He's just 3 years old. Kofanga screams for his mother. His eyes are so infected that he can't even see her. For so many children in the world's poorest countries, trachoma is torture. It's a painful infection often spread by flies, and it's destroying children's eyesight. But it could be stopped if you help today. By calling 0800 021 3925 and giving £2 a month to Sightsavers, you can help make sure children get the treatment they desperately need. You'll help us bring them the medicines and the care that can treat infections. And that means you'll be helping to save children from the torture of trachoma and a life of blindness. Please help us reach them. Call 0800 021 3925, text C7 to 82727, or go online and give just £2 a month now. Because we need you to help save the sight of children like Nananga. We need you to help save them from the torture of trachoma.
Welcome back. You're watching the World Report. On to some business news now. TikTok's US public policy chief Michael Beckerman has planned to leave his Washington-based role and is in fact transitioning into a global advisory position. Now, Beckerman is a key figure in the short video app's fight against the US government ban. Only earlier this month, in fact, President Donald Trump extended the deadline for the sale of US assets of the short video app for 75 days. Taiwan's TSMC, the world's largest contract chip maker, has logged a forecast-beating 60% leap in quarterly profit. Although amid the ongoing tariff war, its outlook has been complicated. Benefiting from surging demand for advanced chips used in artificial intelligence applications, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company said net profit for January to March climbed to a whopping $11.1 billion, its fourth straight quarter of double-digit growth. NASA has released some stunning images of dying stars on your screens right now, offering the most in-depth view of the planetary nebula NGC 1514 to date. Now, these images taken from the coveted James Webb Space Telescope show one of the two stars in the center shed its layers of gas and dust as it approaches the end of its life cycle. In the world of sports, Mumbai Indians and Sunrisers Hyderabad will clash in the Indian Premier League at the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai on Thursday evening. Five-time champions MI defeated Delhi Capitals by 12 runs in their last match, while the last edition's finalists SRH chased down 246 runs to beat Punjab Kings in their previous game. American tennis great Serena Williams has said she would have been banned for 20 years and stripped of her Grand Slam titles had she failed drug tests like men's world #1 Jannik Sinner did last year. Now, Sinner accepted a 3-month ban in February following an agreement with the World Anti-Doping Agency, or WADA as it's called, which challenged an independent tribunal's decision to clear him of wrongdoing after 2 positive tests for the anabolic agent clostebol. World of football, Santos forward Neymar left Brazil's Serie A's game against Atletico Mineiro in tears in the 34th minute due to a left thigh injury. The 33-year-old had sustained a serious knee injury in a World Cup qualifier against Uruguay in October 2023 and has since struggled to return to full fitness. Santos coach, meanwhile, Cesar Sampaio, has expressed concern, stating that it's too early to determine the extent of the injury, but he also noted that it's a major loss and hopes it's not a long-term issue. In the world of entertainment, Ben Affleck is pushing for more movies to be made in Los Angeles, and he's starting with his own films. Premiering The Accountant 2 on Wednesday, the actor and filmmaker said he thinks California took the industry for granted and that it is a priority for Artist Equity, the production company he and Matt Damon, in fact, co-founded, to bring back production to LA or Los Angeles. Affleck, not only this, in fact, Affleck also said he came to the premiere of his latest film, which was shot and takes place in the city, straight from shooting another one at the Los Angeles River. Rapper Ice Cube described cementing his hands and feet at the TCL Chinese Theatre as next level. The rapper and actor also, meanwhile, a recording artist, was joined by his family at the ceremony Tuesday, where he signed and placed his hands and feet in concrete outside the world-famous venue. Now, speaking at the ceremony, Ice Cube said that the honor was too big to dream about. Listen in.
Next level, you know, it's like these are things that are even too big to dream about. You know what I mean? That if you do what you're supposed to do and you do good work, you get rewarded with things like this. And never in a million years that I think, you know, coming here, looking down, seeing all the people, that I would one day be here. And
well, that's a wrap. Take care and have a wonderful day.
This baby bear is terrified, torn from her mother's paws at a tender age. They will force her to live alone in a tiny, filthy cage, like so many bears driven mad by loneliness, rubbing their wounds raw against the bars, suffering cruelly day after day, year after year, just for people's entertainment. Four Paws found little Potap crammed into a tiny, squalid cage. He'd been there for almost 9 years, lonely and isolated. There are so many more young bears who need your help. Please call 0800 038 0455 or text CUB3 to 78866 and give £2 a month to help rescue them. Every month, your £2 could help us free more bears, help give bears the veterinary care they need, and help them live happy, healthy lives in the freedom of our natural sanctuaries. Call 0800 038 0455 or text CUB3 to 78866 and give £2 a month and help Four Paws free bears from agonizing torture. Please, don't leave these bears to suffer for a single day more.
Goldbank London, your #1 place for buying and selling gold. Visit goldbank.co.uk or call 0203 500 1111.
OK, we know this isn't your dog. If this were your dog, he'd want you to know he was upset with you last night when you were watching TV at full volume. You didn't hear him whining, and he was devastated. All he wanted was tummy rubs and for you to get a hearing test. Book a free test today at bootshearingcare.com. And now that you can hear him, he's one happy pup.
If you won't do it for you, do it for them. You could have better hearing in just a week. Boots, with you for life.
Till the next hearing, that is going to take place after a week, nothing can happen, no change is supposed to take place. And the government, we understand, as more details are coming out as to what happened in the court, the government had assured the court that no properties will be denotified, no appointments will be done for a week, after which the Supreme Court now has given a week's time to the centre for its reply.
You know, the other important aspect, and Nupur, our colleague, is joining us at this moment from the Supreme Court on this, who has been tracking, you know, the entire hearing that was taking place. Nupur, yesterday when the court intervened, there was some hint of you know, this kind of an order to be given today. The court at least has given an interim relief to the petitioners. But other important thing also is that it can't be, you know, hundreds and thousands of people coming out and filing various court cases. Only 5 petitions on this will be heard by the Supreme Court. What happens from here on?
Well, yes, first of all, the Supreme Court has clarified that it will only from now going on, it will allow 5 counsels to argue from the side of petitioners, and rest of the petitions that are filed will either be considered disposed of or be treated as intervention applications. Now, the main order that is coming in is that the Supreme Court has now taken on record the statements and submission by the centre that the status quo will be maintained, no Waqf property will be denotified within 7 days till the next hearing, and it will in fact file its reply to clarifying all the questions that the Supreme Court had raised yesterday. Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, today appearing for centre, urged the top court to not take a very harsh stand that it is proposing to pass a partial stay, and in fact said that these are well considered legislations, and they have in fact taken submissions from thousands of people before formulating this new law, and he urged the top court to give them at least 7 days
there are some
to frame
fresh
their
reactions coming in
arguments
from
and give a
the
reply.
court on this, various lawyers coming out and speaking on what happened inside the court. Let's listen in.
मैंने आपको बताया कि 2 मुद्दों पर कि जो काउंसिल में और बोर्ड में अपॉइंटमेंट का जो मामला है वो अगली तारीख तक जो स्टेटमेंट सॉलिसिटर जनरल ने दिया है कि कोई अपॉइंटमेंट नहीं होगा, और दूसरा जो है वक्फ व यूजर, तो माननीय सर्वोच्च न्यायालय ने अपने आदेश में लिखा है कि जो रजिस्टर्ड हैं और गेजेटेड हैं उसको गवर्नमेंट डी नोटिफाई नहीं करेगी अगले आदेश तक।
सर आप कौन से क्लियर है सर, वक्फ बाय यूजर को डिनोटिफाई नहीं करेगी ना, मतलब
नहीं, वक्फ बाय नहीं, सिर्फ वही जो रजिस्टर्ड एंड गेजेटेड हैं।
सर ये कोर्ट ने बोला है।
हाँ बिल्कुल, ये ऑर्डर शीट में है, जो रजिस्टर्ड नहीं है, जो गेजेटेड नहीं है, उसको सरकार संशोधन कानून के हिसाब से डी नोटिफाई कर सकती है।
सर आप किसके लिए अपीयर हुए थे?
मैं हिंदू सेना और हिंदू महासभा 2 हमारे एप्लीकेंट्स हैं, उनकी तरफ से मैं संशोधन के समर्थन में हाजिर हुआ।
नाम बता दीजिए।
वरुण कुमार सिन्हा, विष्णु गुप्ता के लिए, और एक पवन अग्रवाल है उनके लिए, सतीश अग्रवाल। नहीं, आज की सुनवाई पूरी हो गई, अगली तारीख 5 मई की मुकर्रर हुई है। धन्यवाद।
All right, big update now coming in from the court. We understand the court giving out its order has put an interim stay on the Waqf law, saying that nothing should happen. There should be no change in the next 7 days. After 7 days, we understand the court is going to hear the centre's response, and after which we understand, the next further course of action would be decided when it comes to the Waqf law. Well, with that, it's time for a short break here. More on the other side.
From energy grids to tech breakthroughs to defense cooperation, Prime Minister Modi's 4th visit to Sri Lanka is set to be the most consequential, one that will elevate and reshape the India-Sri Lanka ties from here on. And watch that unmatched, non-stop ground coverage on NDTV World with me, Gauri Dwivedi, right here from Colombo.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today.